It wasn't me waiting to exhale, because then that would send the message that there was something else out there that I knew was available to me. I had no clue what was on the other side of that, taking my breath. I had no idea whatsoever. All I knew for me at that moment was, if I continue down this path, I die.
Yeah, thank you. And so I want to move on to our last subject matter or topic, and that's the imagery. And I have another quote that stood out to me, and it was towards the end of it. You talked about, in reality, I just wanted to breathe at my full capacity. In the reality, I just wanted to breathe at my full capacity. And to me, that was such a strong and powerful statement to make, especially at that point of the journey of you meeting Candy and the ups and downs of that relationship and other relationships that were involved. And y'all have to read it, because there's some different situations that go on, and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect him to say that. And so, and they're real, and it really makes people connect with the book, because we've all been in some sort of situation like that. But to get to the end, and so that you just wanted to breathe at full capacity, what did you mean by that?
That I had been breathing for the sake of, I could be frank, her desires, her dreams, her goals, because that was the commitment that I made, that I reserved so much of myself, my energy, my effort, my resources, my network, my net worth was for her and for our marriage, because that was my commitment. And I found myself at the place where I no longer had the desire to do that, that I wanted to know what it felt like to be able to live at full capacity for myself. It was a moment of selfishness, quite frankly, but for the sake of surviving. In other words, I may have been able to continue in the way and the manner of how I was living at that point for her, and it had gotten to the point where now we had an infant child, but I literally felt like I was dying, and that I was not going to survive in that place. And so it was a choice of, do I live and suffer the consequences of choosing to live, or do I continue this path, stay true to my commitment, even though I know that commitment was wrong, and die? And that's what it came down to me. So for me, and so I chose to live. I chose to take my life back, and to breathe, and to aspire to see what would happen by living. That maybe there's something positive that will come out of it for all of us if I made that move. It was a very painful moment in my life, and very painful choice to make. And the outcome was far different than what I'd imagined. Very different.
So was that like one of your waiting to exhale moments?
I don't even know, because I'm a huge fan of Terry McMillan, and in that particular book was helpful for me in my journey of learning how to read and to appreciate literature. It wasn't me waiting to exhale, because then that would send the message that there was something else out there that I knew was available to me. I had no clue what was on the other side of that, taking my breath. I had no idea whatsoever. All I knew for me at that moment was, if I continue down this path, I die. I die. There's
Talk about how, and when you say continue down this path in the image, talk about how imagery played a role in this whole journey, really, to the point you get to, you're like, you know what, I got to be who I am. I'm tired of upholding something or choosing a path that maybe wasn't the best one for me.
Yeah, it's a little bit muddy in that regard. So
Absolutely.
for me, I learned a new term about 3 weeks ago: narrative matching.
Mhm.
I was in my head, I held the image of what a husband and a father looked like, based off of what I'd created for myself without having a role model of a husband or a father that I would aspire to be. When I say image, a person that I could physically or tangibly touch, reach, and talk to get a better understanding of what it meant for them to live into that role. And so in my head, I was doing what I believe were the right things to do for a husband and a father. Let me give you an example. When this is a horrible example, I think it's in the book, but if it's not, it should have been. When we decided to get married, which we both knew we had no business marrying each other.
Mhm.
We loved each other, we admired each other greatly, but we did not like each other at all. We just didn't. We clashed. But we decided there has to be something good to come out of a situation when two people like us who admire each other so greatly and appreciate each other so greatly have all of these positive attributes that they could bring together. Something good just has to come out of it. So my commitment to her were, if you always strive to be your most excellent self, and at that time that meant she was headed into law school, straight A's in law school. And because she was a physically well-developed young woman, my
Mhm.
concerns were that development, those parts would shift to other places and it become fat. So I said to her, if you want to excel in law school and not get fat, I'll do everything else.
Mhm.
Never have to lift a finger. Because in my mind, I thought that that's what a husband
Yeah.
was supposed to do. And I do mean literally take care of everything else, meaning I paid all bills,
Mhm.
cooked all meals, I washed all clothes, I took care of everything inside and outside of the house. All her, essentially all, if not, well, most, if not all of her shopping and excursions and trips and all of these things were my responsibility. If she wanted it, or thought about it, desired it, my role was to make sure that it could happen,
Mhm.
regardless of the sacrifices that I had to go through in order to make those things happen.
And
And
a lot of men do that. A lot of men do that.
of that is, yeah, some of that is talked about and played out in the book, so I won't give it away. But there were some great sacrifices in order for me to do that. But that was my motivation. I had to do those things in order to be a quote unquote good husband.
Mhm.
Whatever I did not have was what it took in order for her to have. But
Yeah.
later on, I
Oh,
realized it had to be that way, you know?
right. No, it doesn't. And then also, and you touched in the book too about how what other people think, right? And how you're sometimes keeping up the image because you don't want to ruin what other people, their perspective or what their vision or what they think too. And I was talking with a friend about how I was excited about to interview you and some of the things that you said in the book. And I was like, you know what? There are so many people that we see every day, friends and family included, that sometimes we know and then sometimes we don't, but they're putting on this image and as they're happy, and you're just like, I know y'all, like that's not, what's really happening. And you think about social media too, all, we're painting these fantasy worlds, and maybe it's the image that we have in our mind of what we want to be. And sometimes that's influenced about from the external factors. And I think we get to a point in society, I think we've reached it somewhat. And then, I don't know, I see social media again, I'm like, maybe we haven't. But that we're able to tell our true stories and say, you know what, this is who we are. Who cares if you like it? Who cares if you love it? If you don't, this is just who we are. I may be down at this point. I may be up at this point. Tomorrow may be a better day, you know, and just roll with me, because we're all on a journey, and nothing's ever going to be perfect. And so I really think about how even society has grown from us having this perfect imagery. When you watch TV, especially because I'm a couch potato, always been one. And so I just really think about the evolution of stories and sitcoms, and how we went from perfect situations until now we're looking at other stories, and we see all the different flaws of a character, and that helps us to relate more because we see the flaws and we know that we are not always perfect. Nothing doesn't always happen the way we want to, and if it doesn't, and when it doesn't, that's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. With the book Heartbreak, the heart I broke was my own. What was your heartbreak? Explain to everybody, what was your heartbreak? I know that it's layered, but just for someone who's reading that and they see that title, that's going to be the first question. Well, what was his heartbreak? How would you answer that?
The heartbreak for me was that image that I held of being an amazing husband and an amazing father being destroyed. That was my first and primary goal in life from high school. I didn't want to be a well-known physician or professional athlete or entertainer. What I wanted more than anything in life was to be a husband and a father. And fast forward, I find myself in the crux of the matter of having to decide, do I have everything that I desired? It's here, it's in my hand, but I'm dying, I'm miserable. So do I give that up for an opportunity to live? What they say, you survive today to fight again another day, or do I acquiesce and die in this quote unquote perfect picture? And so the first heartbreak came in realizing that what I thought was going to complete me and fulfill me, it still might, but not in the situation that I created. That was the first heartbreak. Fast forward, I learned much later on, after going through the divorce and losing the opportunity to be in my son's life on a daily basis. When he was 12 years old, I learned that he no longer wanted to carry my last name. He wanted to take the last name of the man that his mother chose to marry after our divorce, and who had been the physical day-to-day presence in his life. And knowing that I could not deny him that opportunity or that right for him to choose that association, but still it was a reminder to me. It took me all the way back to that moment when he was 4 months old and I chose myself and the opportunity to live versus stay in a situation that I knew was not right and die. And so I had to take responsibility for my actions, not just to think about me selfishly, but to think what would drive him to the point of wanting to take another man's name. What type of hurt had he been carrying that up to his 12-year-old self, excuse me, his 12-year-old self, he didn't have the words or the language to express? What disappointment had he felt? What longing for me had he lived with that he had never shared with me? Those type of thoughts were also a realization to me that I broke his heart in my choice. He didn't ask to be here. He was granted the gift of life through a decision his mother and I made, and I let him down.
Yeah.
But even still in that, breaking his heart, because his heart is my heart, again, I broke my own. And so that's where that story, that line or that title or that thinking comes from. I still believe in love. I still hold the imagery that I will be an amazing husband and a great father. And I still strive for that even today. and that someday God will provide the realization of that imagery for me. And so, yeah, that's where I go. And but one other point, I think we need both of those stories. I think we need the Cliff and Claire Huxtable stories. I think we need the perfect.
What is next for you?
I am working on my first fiction book.
Okay.
That somewhat plays off of who I was prior to the guy who met Candy.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
We can see it in your eyes. That's going to be a page turner.
It's going to be very interesting, but I'm choosing to do this one as fiction to protect some folks. So.
Exactly.
I don't want to embarrass any of my friends.
Right, please don't.
Yeah.
It'd be another heartbreak.
Yeah.
So we got the fiction coming up. Anything else? I see, even with this book, I see a lot of different things that can happen. So I'm just curious. Anything else we should be looking out in regards to this book? Are you having any workshop sessions or anything like that?
I would love the opportunity to do so. I have failed miserably in making this opportunity available in large format for small group discussions, workshops, speaking engagements. In fact, I've shied away from some of the opportunities that have come to me because I don't want it to be about the success of the book on a shelf. I want it to be authentic conversations that can help folks grow and get better in relationship. And so I've been slow to say yes, and have intentionally said no a few times. But maybe Dr. PJ, you can help me with that through sharing this podcast, that we can get in front of the right people who sincerely want to hear the story for the purpose of growing in relationship and helping others do the same.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, not only just sharing your story through the book, but then coming on to talk to us today about it, because it is our stories that connect us. That when you're able to project your story and to let people know about it, we let people know that it's okay. Like, we all go through different things and we all go through different journeys and struggles, but here's my story. Hope you learn from it. Even if it just touches one person, that can change the world, because you never know what that one person is going to do. So you wrote it, it evolved from you writing to your sons, but it's going to change the lives of many sons whom you will probably never, ever meet. And I think that's so important. And that's what legacy is about. What we do today is going to help and change somebody else for the future, because we are assigned to people that we don't even know. We might not ever come across.
Yes.
People who might be in our face and we don't know how much they admire us, right? How much they stand on what we do and what we say. And then people who we may not see, but we affected them directly or indirectly. And so that's why it's so important for me to be able to even do something like this, is to capture the stories, because I think that if we are more vocal about who we are and what we've done, we're able to help people to get through where they are, because we don't know where somebody is mentally, and we're finding that out more today. And if we just have spoken up, we don't know how we've changed somebody's life in the future. So thank you so much for being with us. And